Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I have another review for you. Today I have a review on my favourite budget watchmaker, but it's not one of their classic watches. Now of course I'm talking about Casio, but I'm not just talking about Casio today. Today I'm talking about Casio's Edifice lines. Now you may have seen me unbox the ERA-110D. It's been a couple of weeks now, so if you've forgotten it, that's alright, I'll let you off. Now Casio make plenty of watches through their main brand name, through Edifice, through G-Shock, and one thing that stands out throughout their entire company umbrella, I guess, is that they make fantastic watches for the prices that they offer them at. Now I haven't had an Edifice watch on the channel before. Edifice watches are their more complex style designs with the latest technology that they offer. This one is one of their older watches, but it's a mainstay in their collection. So, my name's Jason, I'm your watch guy today. Let's turn this camera around and get into the review. So here we have the Casio Edifice ERA-110D. I've found this in this black colourway as well as a blue dial colourway. Quite nice watches, very complex style design and very futuristic looking, I think. It is an analog and digital display. Now these are regularly available at really good prices. I actually picked this one up for £40 on a deal at TK Maxx. Now let's get started in on those dimensions. So this has a 47.8mm diameter. That is measured including these kind of inverted crown guards. It is 14.5mm thick. Lug to lug is 51.5mm, so it's not a small watch. And the lugs are actually integrated into the casing, so the reversed lugs, they are 13.5mm wide. Now this Edifice is packed with a Japanese module, or movement if you will, and it has a 10-year battery life, which you will find with a lot of Casio models. I'm just going to zoom in and we can get fully into this review. As you can see, it is a very complex dial on this one. Firstly, let's go over this casing. We have a stainless steel casing with a mixture of finishes. We have a brushed finish upper side, as you can see here over the top of the lugs. Through the sides, we have a high polish, including the buttons. That's also true with the bezel of this. It is a brushed finish on the top of the bezel, and throughout the side it's a high polish. Really nice mixture, gives a little bit of depth to the finish of this watch. These sort of negative lugs and this angular casing gives a really robust type of style into this casing, I think. The pushers on either side are separated by this kind of inverted crown guard, if you will. That's quite angular and adds to the case also. We have 4 high polished pushers, as you can see there. This bottom right one here does have the Edifice logo on it. As you see on the back of the case here, it's not our usual screw down case back, it is actually screwed in by literal screws. As you've obviously seen on a lot of Casios that we've had on the channel before, this is their preferred method, I guess. It also has a lot of information on the back here, as well as the movement, material, model number, Edifice logo, etc. It also has some of the functions as well as the button functions, which I think is really useful. That's actually how I figured out the button functions when I bought it. This is a fixed bezel. It has 10-minute indicators marked by Arabics, which is quite nice, and then separated at the 5-minute indicators with these buttons. As we move into this dial, you can see, as I said before, it is quite a complex dial. Lots of different finishes in there and a lot of different levels. It has a very heavily 3D effect, very chasmed type of style to the dial as these indices draw you into the center. The indices seem to be built out and finished in a stainless steel style. We have bolded indices at the 3, 6 and 9 with a double indice at the 12. The high polish on them really does flow through this design. Fits with the handset as well as the actual casing. I think those indices are very, very bold and very dominating on this dial. As you can see, surrounding the outer edge of the dial, we have a sort of crosshatch, diagonal crosshatch type of look, which gives a nice texture. to the outside of the dial. The minute track is printed on the outside of the indices. The Edifice Casio logo is printed here at the 12 in white. As you can see here, just below the indices, on the top half of this dial, we have 24-hour markings. The bottom half of the dial is actually dominated by this digital display, which is obviously controlled by the pushers on the outside of the case. I'll get into the functions of that in a second. Finishing off this dial, we have this large sword style handset with a outer edge finished in stainless steel. Now, as we're talking about this handset, the center of the hands are actually loomed. It's not the greatest loom in the world, not what Casio are really known for, I understand, but if you're going to do it, maybe do it better than that. Now, obviously, Casio are known for the functions in these watches, especially in the Edifice line. That's what it literally says on their website, the cutting edge of technology built with extravagant dial designs. I think it's extravagant, something like that. So let's cycle through the modes of this watch. As you can see here, it regularly displays the day, date and month. Just click this mode here. This is the Telememo 30 function, which allows you to store up to 30 contacts into here, phone number and name. This is the world time function. Obviously I'm looking at London because, well, that's the country that I live in. We have a free daily alarm function also, as well as a countdown timer, which I love countdown timers in watches. So useful, so useful. Obvious stopwatch that you'd expect from a Casio, or as they call it, the chronograph. Hand setting on the last one, which also displays the time in digital form. And we are back to the beginning. Now, as we move around this watch, we go to this bracelet. Now, this is a brushed stainless steel bracelet. The links have a mixture of brushed and high polish finish, actually high polish at the tips, which gives a nice effect to the bracelet, breaks it up nicely. As we move on to this clasp here, you can see the Edifice print at the top with the logo at the bottom. This is a double pusher clasp. It is a pressed clasp. Now these links are pin links, which I was quite happy about. Usually with a Casio you will get pressed links and I find them a nightmare to change. The micro adjusts on this are perfectly fine to me. I think 4 is a pretty reasonable number of micro adjusts. I think that should be pretty standard with most watchmakers. Now, let's get this watch on wrist before we get into our moan section, and there are a few moans that you are going to want to stick around for. This wasn't all plain sailing for me, this watch. So this is the Casio Edifice ERA-110D on wrist. As you can see, it's quite a nice looking watch on wrist. I really do like the really complex dial design. I think they've done it well, especially with that chasmed look where the indices kind of like draw you into the center of the dial. I think that's lovely. For a watch that comes in at the size that it does, it is a big watch, it's a chunky watch, but I've only got small wrists. I've got 6.2 inch wrists and it fits me really well. It's a very comfortable wear. And I believe that's probably because of that negative type of lug design, end-link design, I guess. I completely forgot what I meant to call it. Now, it is a really comfortable watch, lovely to wear. Did really enjoy it for the price that I got it for. Doesn't mean I don't have any moans about it. I have quite a few. So let me get this off wrist and we'll go through them. So first of all, I'm going to pick off something that is probably very apparent or very expected, I guess, from this watch. The bracelet is kind of cheap. I say kind of cheap, it's very cheap. It's below the standard of a basic Seiko type of Seiko 5 bracelet, and that's not great. That's not a compliment in any sort of way. It's actually quite a dig. It is also a pressed clasp. Now, I get that this is quite a budget watch, so I could forgive that, but I'm definitely going to have to mention that bracelet to you. My next moan is the fact that this digital display is not legible at all. Now, obviously I've got the lights on in here and I've lit this so you can actually see the watch, so you probably can't tell from this, but when you wearing this watch in the day, it's very hard to see that digital display, and it's quite annoying, if I'm honest. So that is a massive setback for me. I think that was probably one of the biggest moans that I had. Well, that is until I started wearing it. It definitely would benefit from a nice backlight, even if it's just to light up that little digital display. I think that'd be perfect, to be honest. I know a lot of the Edifice line do have that type of backlight. It's just not in this one. Now, my biggest moan on this, and let me just start by saying I understand the budget of this watch. It's not an excessively expensive watch. It's quite affordable, and Casio have packed in a lot for the price that you pay. However, this is a mineral crystal. Now, I've had plenty of watches with mineral crystals in, and I've never really had an issue. I'm not the type of guy that scratches up crystals. I'm not clumsy enough to do it, to be honest. So it's kind of annoyed me that this crystal is already scratched. I'll just try and catch in the light there. It's in the center. See those little lines? There's quite a nasty one here, here, and here. Now, if I'd worn this for like a year or a few months even, then I completely understand. Watches wear down, especially at this price range. But I got that about 2 days into wearing the watch, and it wasn't like I was wearing it like a beater. I'd worn it out once. It kind of ruined the watch for me, because I like to keep my watches in the condition that they came in. Even if I buy a second hand and it's not in perfect condition, I like to keep it at that standard at the very least. So that was a bit of a letdown for me. So guys, that is my first review on a Casio Edifice. In fact, I think that's my first review on a Casio that isn't just a Casio. I think it might be. Anyway, would I buy another Edifice? Yes. I've already weighed up a couple that I'd like to buy. But would I buy this Edifice again? I don't think I would. To be honest, I think this is kind of the Edifice that everyone buys. And it may be a really nice fit, and it may have a lot of nice functions, and it gets a lot of nice compliments, to be honest. It's just not for me. You know what it is? It's the backlight. If this had a backlight in it, I'd be all over it. I think this would be a mainstay in my collection, but it hasn't got a backlight. So, and I can't read the digital display at the best of times. I may not be that old yet, but my eyes are terrible. And without that backlight, I just can't fathom it, to be honest. So for me, this is definitely one of the watches that are gonna see the back end of my eBay page. Now, while we're on the topic of Casios, I do have my first G-Shock review coming up. So if you're a fan of Casios, Casio Edifice, Casio G-Shock, just standard Casios, I've got plenty of them in, you should definitely subscribe, because there will be plenty more content for you to see soon. If you're not a fan, subscribe anyway, because there's plenty of more content for you to see soon. Now, if you wanted to pick this watch up, it is available in plenty of places, and usually you can wait for a little sale. I think I'd probably pay around £50 for this. I got a really good deal for £40, and I think that's probably what I'm going to resell it around. The asking or list price for these is around 100 and something, I think. I definitely wouldn't go anywhere near that. You can hold out for a deal. Thank you for watching this one, guys. It is very appreciated. I think I'm past the 400 mark now. I'm doing this as I'm at like 392. So in advance, thank you very much. It's very appreciated. I will see you in the next one.